Hello, BookTube. For those of you who don't live in America, first of all, very wise decision on your part. And second, you might not remember that Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, is our Independence Day. The 4th of July is our Independence Day celebration. It's a national holiday. It's one of the most sacrosanct national holidays on our very small calendar of official days off. And it falls on a Wednesday this year. And it was my original impression going into this week that most people who have normal put-on-pants, go-to-work jobs would put their nose to the grindstone from Monday until Tuesday, and then Tuesday at around quitting time they would leave and not come back until the following Monday. It was my impression going into this week that most Americans who work instead of writing about books on their bed all day long are just unofficially or officially going to take Thursday and Friday off from work and just not bother with it. But during the course of today, during the course of Monday, as the week commenced, I'm getting a very strong impression that most Americans are taking the week off. They're not even bothering to report for work on Monday and Tuesday. Certainly this is true of my horde of book publicists, most of whom have automated email messages saying, I'm gone. I'm gone and I'm not coming back until well after the weekend. And I even detected it in my mailman today, who dropped off a bunch of free books, but he did so slightly grudgingly. His face was beet red. It's the subtext here of these comments, for those of you who aren't maybe watching the news, is that it's boiling hot in Boston. It's actually boiling hot everywhere in the country. America is undergoing a heat wave with almost no pockets of exception, which is really rare, kind of rare. Climatologists have been pointing out for the last 4 days that it's not going to keep being rare. Summers are going to get longer, and they're going to look more and more like this. Right now, if we hit a heat wave of, we use Fahrenheit in this country, so 90 degrees Fahrenheit or more for 3 consecutive days is technically a heat wave. And nowadays, right now, the attitude, at least in the northeast of America, is, well, if you hit a heat wave, you can endure it with a certain kind of stoicism because you know it's going to end. And indeed, this heat wave is predicted to end with thunderstorms and a drop in temperature at the end of the week. And the reality that people have to get accustomed to, young people especially, is a reality in which they don't end, in which the heat waves just continue and continue and continue, where only the season ends the heat waves, but not temperature or not patterns of weather. But one way or another, the combination of the stultifying heat and the midweek federal holiday, I'm not sure that I'm going to get any mail tomorrow, even though tomorrow is not the holiday. But we have some mail today, so I thought we'd go through it together. It ends in a box. It's not many packages, but you never know. You never know what might be in here. Let's see what this first one is. Oh, well, how do you like that? Okay. All right, we were just talking about this guy. And I was saying, gee, it's amazing that his works are not currently in print. There isn't a big, fat volume of Penguin Classics of his works, considering that you don't get many people who have this name recognition level of fame, who are also literary for their whole lives, who don't have a complete volume always in print. And I think I also made an aside, maybe in the comments or maybe in that video, it's hard to keep track of my asides, that where is the next big biography of this guy? Why hasn't there been one in so long? Here you go. This is by Anna Beer, and it is a new biography of Sir Walter Raleigh. Patriot or traitor? I'm glad there's no question mark, because I could actually answer that. Wow, okay, so this is from One World Books. It's just a soup to nuts biography of Sir Walter Raleigh. Comes out in mid-November. Fantastic. And Anna Beer is a cultural historian and the author of biographies of Milton, Sir Walter Raleigh, and Lady Bess Raleigh. Oh no. Okay. Is this a reprint then? Why is a biography of Sir Walter Raleigh listed in her accomplishments? One World Books, first One World publication 2018, but The moral right of Anna Beer to be identified as the author of this work has been asserted in her concordance with the Copyright Designs and Patent Act of 1988. And I'm wondering, maybe this is an expanded version of an earlier work. Anna Beer has been called both a Sir Walter Raleigh groupie, that was by someone writing for Woman's Hour, and who's really earned their pay, and his fiercest critic, which was asserted by The Guardian. She proudly claims to be both. Good. It's the perfect thing for a biographer to be, but it's really tough. It's really tough. In the course of researching and writing a biography of someone, you almost always become either one or the other. Either Stockholm Syndrome sets in and you become their biggest groupie, or you begin to hate the subject of your book and begin to lose sight of the balance of the good and bad they did. I see that all the time in biographies. That's why I don't understand why anyone would ever undertake a multi-volume biography of anybody. There isn't enough admiration in the world to sustain a multi-volume biography, so you're guaranteed by the middle of the second or third book that you're going to thoroughly hate your subject. So why would you do that? Why would you set about single-handedly destroying one of your own heroes? She's a cultural historian and has written biographies of Milton and Lady Bess Raleigh. Okay, so this is worded a little differently than the pub sheet. This one is just that one of her previous books was Mrs. Raleigh. So, great. Fantastic. What a way to start. Okay, so we have a biography of Sir Walter Raleigh due in mid-November. This is going to be tough. I've said on this channel many times that my sort of informal rule of thumb is to wait. If I'm getting an advance copy that's months down the line, I wait a little bit. I am currently reading fall books, but only in a gradual sequence and only keeping the furthest books, out at the periphery. This thing is at the very end of the year, but it's going to be tough to hold off on reading it because it's a subject that interests me. So let's move on. We started off really well. Let's see if we can keep this up. What is this next one? It's from Grove Atlantic. Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm going to hold this up, and the 2 or 3 people who know me in real life who watch these videos are just going to go, because they always feel a little defeated when my Steve book appetite is just satisfied over and over again. So the first book we got was Elizabethan biography, and the second book is World War II history. So if there's a Kennedy book in here, we're all set. So this is by James Holland, and it is Big Week, the biggest air battle of World War II. During the third week in February 1944, the combined Allied air forces based in Britain and Italy launched their first round-the-clock bomber offensive against Germany. Their goal? To smash the main factories and production centers of the Luftwaffe while also drawing German planes into an aerial battle of attrition to neutralize the Luftwaffe as a fighting force prior to cross-channel invasion, planned for a few months later. Officially called Operation Argument, this aerial bomb offensive quickly became known as Big Week, and it was one of the turning point engagements of World War II. Okay, let's keep reading. There's a big thing missing so far. Those of you who know your history of World War II aerial warfare will see it already. Let's see if it comes up. Prior to Big Week, the air forces on both sides were in crisis. Allied raids into Germany were being decimated, but German resources, fuel, and pilots were strained to the breaking point. Ultimately, new Allied aircraft, especially the American long-range P-51 Mustang, and superior tactics won out during Big Week. Through interviews, oral histories, diaries, and official records, Holland follows the fortunes of pilots, crew, and civilians on both sides, taking readers from command headquarters to fighter cockpits to anti-aircraft positions and civilian chaos on the ground, vividly recreating the campaign as it was conceived and unfolded. In the end, the 6 days of intense air battle largely cleared the skies of enemy aircraft when the invasion took place on June 6, 1944, D-Day. Okay, well, James Holland wrote a 2-volume history of World War II called The Rise of Germany and the Allies Strike Back, which I liked quite a bit. This calls it the first 2 books in the War in the West trilogy, so I guess there'll be a third one. But this pub sheet, we don't hold it against the book, right? The pub sheet might not have been written by the author, might not even really have been seen or approved by the author, depending on how busy he was that week. But the pub sheet does not mention another stated aim of Operation Argument. What was it called here? The goal is to smash the main factories and production centers of the Luftwaffe while also drawing German planes into an aerial battle of attrition to neutralize it as a fighting force prior to the cross-channel invasion. There was one other goal. Winston Churchill was absolutely explicit about it, and he made sure that everyone else, including the Allied command, agreed with him. And that other goal was the decimation of civilian populations, firebombing cities. When under the idea that there are no innocent Germans, a war crime, in other words, a series of them. The same brave fighter pilots who did the stuff that this pub sheet mentions also bombed German market towns, no military value whatsoever, and killed almost everyone in them. I gotta hope. I mean, I didn't. In The Rise of Germany and the Allies Strike Back, I did not notice any whitewashing, so I have to hope that James Holland is still the same author. He didn't have some sort of fall down a flight of stairs or something, and that the full nature of Operation Argument will be listed in this book. I'll just have to hope for that. Not listed in the pub sheet. That's ominous. But anyway, this also comes out in November. And there is... or does it? When does this come out? Yes, early November. Okay. So again, this is going to be really tough not to read right away, especially since I want to know now what angle it's going to take. There's absolutely no merit in whitewashing the good war. There's absolutely no merit in doing that one way or another. The active participants are all almost dead, and most of them wouldn't have wanted it. Most of the men that I've met who fought in World War II wouldn't have wanted you to whitewash what they did. If you'd have told them this was a brutal, ugly thing you did, they'd have immediately said war is brutal and ugly. And whether that's right or wrong, and whether or not a civilian population has any right to sit in judgment over soldiers in combat, is another question. But you can't leave it out of an account that's supposed to be a history. We shall see. We shall see. I'm going to try to hold off on reading. But that's... Now I'm curious to know if this whole mail haul is going to be steep. We're halfway through, so this next one will tell the tale. What is this? It's a finished copy of something. So let me see what we got here. Oh! Okay. All right, this is also from the folks at One World. This comes out in mid-August. And it's another Steve book, so we're doing just fine. This is by Michael Pembroke, and it is Korea, Where the American Century Began. How is that for a cover? Yeesh, yeesh, and yeesh. Notice how restrained I'm being. I'm being very restrained. I am not going to say, for the benefit of my faithful older readers, that this is a cover that has 4 lunatics on it. Instead, I will toe the company line and say, at most, there are only 2. Okay, so what have we got here? I already know about this because I got an advance copy of this and could not lay my hands on it. The publicist very kindly sent me another copy. This is an incisive look at why the Korean Peninsula has become the nuclear flashpoint it is today. Unless you know the history, you cannot see the future. In late 1950, the U.S.-led invasion of North Korea failed, and for the next 3 years, the United States relentlessly bombed the North's cities, towns, and villages. Pyongyang has been determined to develop a credible nuclear deterrent ever since. The Korean War was the first of America's unsuccessful military inventions post-World War II, and its first modern conflict with China. It established the pattern for the next 60 years and marked the true beginnings of the American century. Fantastic. Can't wait to read it. And it's right around the corner, so I actually could read this with no justification due. I could read this tonight. I might. And the author, Michael Pembroke, is a writer, historian, naturalist, and author of the acclaimed historical biography Arthur Phillip, Sailor, Mercenary, Governor, Spy, which was shortlisted for the Prime Minister's Literary Awards. Since 2010, he has been a judge of the Supreme Court in New South Wales, Australia, and he lives in Sydney. So all of you who are telling me that Australia has no literary culture, What's this guy do? What he's got to do on? He's got to be on the convention circuit. Are you telling me there are no conventions for him to go to? And you gotta love. I tell you, Australians are the luckiest people in the world. He looks Australian. This is the way you all look. Incredibly healthy, incredibly happy, like you'd be a best friend. Great. Okay. Wonderful. He wrote a military biography. Appears not to have done, well, that I know of anyway, he appears not to have done any broad-scale history. So that's a little perilous. We shall see. All right, so another Steve book. So we have 2 more books to go, a cardboard package and a box. Is it possible that we can get all the way to 5 books without a dud? I mean, you'd think that it would be possible since I request most of these things, but you've seen mail haul after mail haul. It ends up not being true. So let's see what this next one is. Oh, fantastic. Great. Okay, this is due right away, and I'm going to be writing about it, so I'm glad to have it. This is by Christopher Pinney, and it is The Waterless Sea, A Curious History of Mirages. And look at the cover. Let's see if I can do this for you. The cover makes the caravan shimmer indistinctly, like a mirage. And this is just a natural history. It's a history and a natural history. It's of mirages in first-hand accounts of desert travelers, and also what they actually are, how they actually work, why they are so uncannily convincing, which is a fact that I can attest to firsthand. That you will be out. I've actually been in caravans almost exactly like that. Camels are such horrible creatures, but I've been out in, the great wastes of sand, not chaparral, not hard ground that never sees rain, but great dunes, wastes of sand, where you're in as alien a world as if you're at the bottom of the sea. And I have been in circumstances like that, murderously hot, no relief, nothing whatsoever, where I would see a mirage in the distance, and I knew perfectly well that it was a mirage. I knew perfectly well down to the last detail, down to the last afternoon trek, how far we were from anything that had a wall, from any kind of water, which are the 2 most popular things you see in a mirage. I knew perfectly well that what it could not be, and yet it was so convincing. And I think there's going to be a lot of physics in this that I don't know that will explain that, and that's great. I'm going to be writing about this for the Christian Science Monitor. Christopher Pinney is a professor of anthropology and visual culture at the University College London. And his publications include Camera Indica, Photos of the Gods, and Photography and Anthropology. So he's exactly right for this job. Okay, fantastic. All right, so now the big question. Now we're at the box, and if the box is Karl Ove Knausgaard, then I will have to admit defeat. But we'll see. We'll see what it is. I can't imagine what could be coming to me in a heavy box. Let's see what this is. You've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is okay. This is incredible. All right, this is actually already out. This is just unbelievable. Okay. All right, this is a gigantic biography of Lord Lansdowne. Doesn't come with a pub sheet, just a data on its release and whatnot. A remarkable figure of British politics between the late Victorian and interwar years. In other words, the Edwardian period, which is right where I live. Lord Lansdowne was among the last hereditary aristocrats to wield power by birth. Over the course of a distinguished 50-year career, he served as Governor-General of Canada, Viceroy of India, Secretary of State for War, Foreign Secretary, and Leader of the House of Lords. It was Lansdowne who engineered the crucial changes in British foreign policy, and the burdens of Britain's imperial commitments led the House through one of the most divisive periods in modern times, and in the end of the First World War became a figure of notoriety greater than any popular leader of the day. Descended from one of the great Whig families, he was a moderate progressive incapable of discourtesy or any dishonesty. He was trusted by everyone. His life illustrates the challenges that his class had to face at this time and acts as a prism through which the view of transition of Britain from global force to much reduced power. This authoritative text, based on the first full examination of Lansdowne's own extensive archive, draws this great man out of the shadows and presents him in the context of his own time. This is just unbelievable. Okay, well, my mailman delivered it grudgingly, but it is an all-Steve mail haul, which is kind of rare, even on my own channel. so we have, to recapitulate, we have a gigantic biography of Lord Lansdowne, whose career I know intimately, but I don't have any biographies of him. Don't think I've ever read a biography of him. I think he wrote a memoir, and I think I have it somewhere. Old, musty thing that you'd only find at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston. But a modern biography? No. Then The Waterless Sea, a natural history of mirages, how they happen, and the famous points in history in which they've been recorded. Then Korea, about the United States' troublesome, and this author says pivotal, relationship with the Korean Peninsula. Can't wait to read it. Then Big Week by James Holland, who's a World War II historian I really like. And now he's dealing with a gigantic air campaign that I don't have a history of. So it's mentioned in other histories, but a standalone history of Operation Argument I do not have. So, and a big biography of Sir Walter Raleigh. That is a Steve mail haul right there. so whether I get mail tomorrow or not from my slug of bed mailman, I'm still well pleased. So I'll wrap this up here, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube. And if you're in America, try and stay cool. Remember, hydration, no long periods outside, and especially watch your pets. No running around, no going out jogging with them, never leaving them in cars. Nothing like that. They're much more vulnerable to the heat than you are. But anyway, I'll wrap this up, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.